Apple and Samsung have done it again, breaking sales records and each of them staking their claims as the best smartphone of 2016. Whether you're an iOS follower or an Android fanatic, there's a lot to be learned from the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S7. And that's why we put together the ultimate guide that covers the biggest smartphones of the year. In this guide you'll find over 200 tips, split into 12 sections to help you get the best from the best. You'll find time indexes in the video description to help you get to where you need to be, and this is definitely one for your playlist that you can refer back to again and again. As always folks, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you love it, and if you have like-minded friends, share it. Okay, Apple's up first, so I'm Rob Wilson, you're watching the Video Gadgets Journal, and this is the ultimate guide to the Apple iPhone 7 and Samsung Galaxy S7. We will start with the riskiest tip to test, and that is that the iPhone 7 is dust and water resistant. It's rated to IP67 standard, which means that you should be able to submerge it in 1 meter of water for up to 30 minutes without any issues being caused. In this test, I submerged my iPhone in a bowl of water for an entire minute. I couldn't control the phone while it was in the water, but once I took it out, everything seemed fine. And just as a disclaimer, like me, you test this at your own risk. The iPhone 7 has a raise to wake feature, whereby you lift up the phone, look at it, and it will display the lock screen. In order to turn this feature off, you can go to Settings, scroll down to Display and Brightness, and toggle on or off the raise to wake option. When you swipe up from the bottom of the screen, you get the control center, and you have different functions such as turning on the flashlight. However, there are more features embedded into the flashlight now. If you do a 3D touch, which is a harder press on screen, you will see more options to change the brightness level. So you can switch it up to a bright level, or you can switch it down to a low light flash torch. As well as extra settings on the flashlight, you can also 3D touch on the timer to set up a quick timer, whether it be 1 hour, 20 minutes, 5 minutes or a minute. And if you 3D touch on the calculator, you'll be able to copy the last sum that was worked out. And also on the camera, if you 3D touch, you can take a photo, record slow-mo, take a selfie, and so on. And one more feature on the new control center, you can swipe to the left to bring up more options depending on what apps you're currently using. You can now switch applications by doing a 3D touch on the left side of the screen, and you will start to see your apps on the left hand side. If you swipe all the way to the right, that will automatically switch to the next application. If you do a half swipe, then that will show you your multitasking apps where you can switch quickly to any app that's currently in memory. Notifications has received a bit of an overhaul, and Apple have realised that you may have hundreds of notifications. So in order to quickly delete them all, you can 3D touch on the cross in the top right hand corner to then clear all notifications all at once. Easy done. Whenever you receive a notification, you can also 3D touch it to see if you have more options. For example, if I 3D touch the YouTube option, it allows me to take me to the settings for YouTube. As for a message, if I 3D touch that, it automatically takes me to the message so I can respond to it. When you are on your notifications, if you swipe right, you can look at your application widgets. To edit these widgets, you can scroll down to the bottom, tap the edit button, and from here you can remove a widget or reorder it if you wish. Make sure you press done once you've finished. In addition to this, if you want to quickly add a widget to that screen, you can 3D touch on the application, and if it does have a widget, you'll have the option in the top right hand box here to tap and add the widget. Then when you return to your notifications, scroll right to see the widgets. That should put the new widget on screen. If you would prefer your notifications not to show any content when the screen is locked, you can do this by going to Settings, then Notifications, and then for the particular app that you want to hide content, such as messages, you can scroll down to the bottom and untick the Show Previews toggle. Now when a lock screen is on, it will tell you nothing about the content of a message and simply say where it comes from. Home screen folders now have 3D touch options as well. For example, in this folder at the top, we have a 3 unread counter, that's the emails, and it means that I can 3D touch on the folder to jump automatically to those unread emails, or rename the folder if I want to. If you want, you can put a floating button on your screen to help you navigate around your device. In order to do this, go to Settings, and then in General, tap on Accessibility, and scroll down to Assisted Touch. On here, if you toggle it on, you'll now see a floating white button which you can drag around the screen and place it anywhere you want, and when you tap on it, it will give you different options such as opening up the notification center or going to your control center. One extra feature that has been built into the Assistive Touch is if you 3D touch on the button while it's in an application, it acts as a on-screen home button. The clock app now has a new feature called bedtime, which is supposed to help you go to bed at the right time and wake up when you want to. There are a few steps you need to go through by telling the application what time you want to wake up, when you want it to wake up, so essentially alarms on different days, how many hours of sleep you would like, and how much of a reminder you want before you need to go to bed. I'm sure this is available in different apps, but Apple has decided to integrate it into its clock application. You can turn your iPhone 7 into a magnifier if you want to. To do this, go to Settings, then General, Accessibility, and the magnifier option. Make sure you toggle it on, and once it is on, if you triple tap the home button, that will launch the magnifier, where you can then zoom in and out of a object if you want to. While the default triple click of a home button will bring up the magnifier, you can add more options to this by going to Settings, General, Accessibility, and scrolling all the way down to the bottom where it says Accessibility Shortcut. Tap on that and let's add Assistive Touch. Now when I triple click the home button, you will get two options to use whichever feature you want. Stocks. Who uses the Stocks application? The answer is probably not many of us, and previously you weren't able to delete this application. Well, the good news is now you can. Like any other application on your home screen, you can delete it by tapping on the cross button to get rid of it. And if you want to get it back, you can simply go to the App Store to reinstall it. Although there is a question over whether it actually deletes the application, as it has been proven that even if you're disconnected from the Wi-Fi, it will automatically add it back to your home screen. So maybe it just hides it, but ultimately it's good that you can now get rid of these useless applications off your home screen. You can launch a spotlight within applications now, but you have to be very careful. Swipe down from the top of the screen until it vibrates and then let go, and you can see the spotlight search. If you don't get it right, you'll end up just showing notifications as normal. There's a new contextual lookup feature now, which is similar to Google Now. So if you select some text, you can tap the lookup button and it will give you information on the word you just searched for. Another addition to the Notes application is this plus button at the top here, which allows you to collaborate with people on Notes. When you press it, it will ask you how you want to share your notes, so I can tap on messaging and send my notes to somebody else so that we can collaborate on them. The health section now has been beefed up into 4 different categories that include activities, mindfulness, nutrition and sleep. Obviously this does depend on whether you're using an Apple Watch and how much effort you want to put into adding all your information to the health app. But if you just leave it, the activity area will show you how many steps you've done, flights climbed and walking distance. While the iPhone 7 has controversially lost its headphone jack, it has gained stereo speakers. And you can adjust the setting of those by going into Settings, General, Accessibility, and if you scroll down until you see the hearing options, you can turn on or off the mono audio, and if you have stereo speakers turned on, you can adjust the left and right balance. The base model of iPhone 7s now start at 32 gig instead of 16 gig, which is brilliant. However, you can save yourself another 2.5 gig right off the bat by checking how much each of your applications takes up that's pre-installed on your device. And a quick glance into storage shows you that GarageBand takes up 1.5 gigs, iMovie takes up 600 meg, and Keynote takes up another 600 meg. So if you're not going to use those applications, you might as well delete them straight away. By default, on the lock screen, if you swipe up, you can see the control center. But if you want to turn this feature off, you can go to Settings, then Control Center, and you have access to lock screen toggle here, which you can turn on or off. And you can also do the same thing with applications if you don't want a control center popping up by accident when you're playing a game, for example. The home button on the iPhone 7 no longer clicks by itself. It actually reacts to a haptic feedback engine in a device, and you can adjust how the vibration works by going to Settings, General, and then tapping on the home button, and you have 3 different vibration types. So you may know that if you try and press the home button when the device is off, nothing happens. But then when you have one of these 3 different options on, it vibrates in a slightly different way. Kind of a little weird, but you soon get used to it. You may have noticed since the iOS 10 update that you can't just rest your finger on your home button to unlock it, but you can set it back to that system option by going to Settings, then General, Accessibility, and scrolling down to Home button. And there is an option here for rest finger to open. So now, when you simply unlock your device by resting your finger on the home button, you can also change the home button double click speed here as well, from default slow to slowest, if you need extra time to do the double or triple click for the options. Now, as I've been talking about 3D Touch so much, it might be a good idea to show you where the settings are for this, and it is in General, Accessibility, scroll down a little bit to 3D Touch, and here you can decide whether you want to use 3D Touch, but more importantly, the touch sensitivity, which you can slide on here and test down at the bottom. When you first switched on your iPhone 7, you will have set up at least 1 fingerprint, but you can set up more by going to Settings and then Touch ID and Passcode. You will need to put in your passcode at this point. And then you can look at your fingerprints. You can set up more than 1 fingerprint. For example, you may want to use your right thumb, your left thumb, and one of your index fingers, and perhaps maybe an index finger of somebody you trust, for example, your partner. So in this example, I'm going to set up my left index finger. That means you can unlock your device with multiple fingers, so it's easy to do. Your iPhone 7 lock screen can give you limited access, such as viewing notifications or certain functions like Siri. In order to modify these, you can go to Settings, scroll down to Touch ID and Passcode, type in your passcode for your device, and then scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and you'll see an options where it says Allow Access when locked, and you can toggle each of these options on or off, whether it's the notifications using Siri or replying to a message. If you are letting someone else use your iPhone 7, you may want to restrict use, such as the camera, browser, or certain actions. To do this, go to Settings, then General, then scroll down to Restrictions, and here you need to enable restrictions by setting up an independent passcode. In this one, I'm going to set up a very simple passcode. Once you've done that, you can turn off things like Safari, the camera, Siri, and so on. If you want to disable certain other actions, such as installing applications and in-app purchases, you can also do it from this screen. Obviously, to turn them on again, you'll have to go into restrictions and put in your passcode once again. Siri has been opened up to third-party applications, but you need to enable it first, and to do this, you need to go to Settings, tap on Siri from the main settings screen, and then scroll down to App Support, and any applications installed on your device that need Siri can be toggled on or off here. There are a couple of options to help you save some battery on your iPhone 7, and they're all accessed through Settings and scrolling down to Battery. The first and most obvious one is low battery mode, which you can turn on at any time, and that will restrict certain things such as checking email, using Siri, and reduce visual effects. Independent of that, you can use the battery percentage to give you an entirely accurate readout of your battery to the percentage, and it also gives you battery life suggestions. For example, I have brightness on full at the moment, so it's suggesting that I should turn my brightness down a little bit. As for battery usage, some interesting information here, giving you percentage usage either in the last 24 hours, or it can go up to the last 3 days and a week, and you can press on the clock button on the right hand side to give you an actual breakdown of your on-screen time of different apps. So if you know now if anything is running far too much battery, you can look at the screen and reduce your usage of it through this assistance. If you're more interested in playback performance rather than quality on videos, you can adjust that in the settings and scrolling down to videos, and on the Wi-Fi playback quality you can choose best available or good to ensure that the video is a lower quality but you get the best performance. The integrated Apple email app now includes an unread filter, which is handy in the bottom left hand corner. So if you tap that, it will quickly show you which emails you've yet to read. While the default filter is unread, you can tap at the bottom here to change the filter if you want to into something else and filter by different options. Another useful feature introduced by the mailing app is the unsubscribe button at the top of emails. Whenever an email is detected as being from a mailing list and has an unsubscribe link in it, usually at the bottom, the mailing app puts an additional unsubscribe link at the very top of your email, front and center, just in case you want to unsubscribe from the mailing list. When you're on the main contacts page, you can 3D touch a person to get a snapshot of potential contact methods, and if you tap on a person's name, it shows you the new contact card. If you want Siri to tell you who is calling, you can go to Settings, scroll down to the phone application, then tap on Announce Calls, and from here you can select whether Siri should tell you who is calling. It's probably most useful when you're cycling or driving in the car, where you can turn it on to headphones only or headphones in car. When you are typing a message on the keyboard, you can do a 3D touch long press on it, and it turns it into a trackpad, which means it's easier to move the cursor around and place it where you want to make quick edits to your message. On the keyboard, you can 3D touch the delete button now to delete faster. So I'll start this test by deleting slowly and then pressing harder to delete faster. When you're typing a message, you can tilt your device to landscape to get a bigger keyboard. And also in the bottom right hand corner, you have this new scribble option where you can simply etch out a message. If you keep it in that mode, by pressing done and tilting it to portrait, you get the keyboard back, but when you tilt it back to landscape, it goes to scribble mode. You can do some very funky effects with messaging if you do a 3D touch next to your message to bring up the effect screen. The first options are in the text bubble. You can change it to a slam, loud, gentle effect, or indeed make it an invisible message. You can also send effects. So if you type in another message, 3D touch, go to screen, you can send it with, for example, some confetti. You can also send stickers to people on messaging now. In order to do this, tap on the arrow next to your message, then tap on what looks to be an App Store button. In the bottom left hand corner we have 4 dots, and then you have the option to add either images, music or stickers. You can add more stickers by tapping on the plus button, which takes you to a mini messaging store where you can choose certain things, including games as well, but stickers is the one we're looking at, and we can go to gaming and then find some stickers from a game. Once we've added that, when we go back to our messaging and select one of the stickies, such as Mario Run, we can drop it into the message and that will send a message to your messaging partner. Another thing that messaging can do is automatically change your words to emojis. So if you put in emoji words and then tap on the emoji button, if they turn into an orange word, you can tap on it to change it to that emoji. A very quick conversion and very useful for when you want to send fun messages. If you have a predictive text on, you should also start to see predictive emojis. For example, if I type in "I like pizza," one of the predictive options should be a pizza emoji, which will appear in the right corner, and you can just tap that to quickly change your word to an emoji. Your device will also try to predict certain messages. For example, this one says "see you at 6 p.m. tomorrow," and this is underlined because it thinks it may be able to turn this into an event. So if I tap on it, it gives me options to show in calendar and create event. Those is much easier and more implemented in messaging now. If you tap on the camera, it will give you a small preview of what you might be taking on your camera, and you can swipe to the left to quickly choose a picture. If you swipe to the right, you can launch the full camera application or the full photo library to share your pictures. Messaging also allows you to make immediate changes to pictures that you've taken. So if I go to the camera application in Messages, take a picture, it will display in my messages before sending. I can tap on the picture itself, and then there is a small markup button here, which then allows me to do quick doodles on the picture if I want to before sending it. You can directly react to certain messages if you want to by long pressing. That's not 3D touch, just a long press. Then you'll get the options to like it, thumbs down and whatnot, and at the bottom you can choose more options which include deleting it if you want to. If you want to hide the fact that you read an individual's message, you can go to a person's messaging tap on the info button in the top right and then toggle on or off send read receipts. If you're exchanging a lot of messages between each other that involve pictures, you can save yourself a little bit of data by going to settings, scrolling down to messages, and at the very bottom of this screen there is an option to toggle on low quality image mode so that you will save a bit of data when you send messages to each other. To access the camera directly from the lock screen, you simply have to swipe to the left. Not so much of a tip this one, but it is a new feature for the smaller iPhone 7. It now includes optical image stabilization, much like its 7 Plus brother, although there is no way to turn it off in these settings as far as I'm aware. You can now use Siri to search through your photos. Here are a couple of examples. Hey Siri, show me photos from yesterday. Hey Siri, show me photos from Vancouver. Hey Siri, show me photos of dogs. One of the most interesting new features of the Photos section of your iPhone is Memories, which will automatically collect pictures from, say, the last week or the last month or places you visited and put them into a slideshow without you having to do anything. So, for example, if we look at this slideshow, which is from Lacona in the US, it automatically generates a movie with some music and goes through the pictures. You can change the music from different styles and increase or decrease the length of the film, and it's a nice new feature that's been added. You can now edit live pictures after you've taken them. When you go to your photo gallery and choose the edit option, you will see a toggle here in either the bottom left hand corner or the top left hand corner, and if you edit with this button in blue, you're editing the live photo. If you toggle it off, then you're just editing the picture. The settings for your camera aren't actually found in the camera application. Instead, you need to go to settings and scroll down to photos and camera, and on here, if you scroll down, you have a couple of options which include turning a grid on for your camera and also changing the recording quality, for example up to 4K for video recording and slow-mo in either 1080p at 120 frames a second or 720p at 240 frames a second. When it comes to customizing the look of your iPhone, you're not exactly blessed with options, but there are a couple, and you can access them by going to Settings, then General and Accessibility. Here you have the option to make your font larger, for example, by using this slider. Another option is to turn some of the buttons a different shape. You've also got the option to increase the contrast by reducing transparency and darkening colours, although it's very difficult to tell the difference in the naked eye. There's also reduced motion, which takes out some of the parallax scrolling effects and different motions. And this one here is actually one of my favourites. You can turn on a little on-off button on your toggles just to make it clearer when something is on or off. There's also a couple more visual options in display accommodations where you can invert the colours to make things look really quite crazy, and colour filters. Obviously this is designed for people who may have eyesight issues, and you can change the colour scheme, for example. But if you can have a play of it and see if there's anything you quite like from any of these features. And if you've ever wanted to make your screen completely dark while it's still on, you can reduce the white point to 100% and then use the control panel to reduce the brightness from full down to dark. And now I can't even control my screen because I can't see anything. So it might be difficult to get the brightness back up. This could take a while. Although this is not officially supported by Apple, there is a way to directly screen record your iPhone 7 if you want to. You need to point your Safari browser to savagepool.com, and here you'll have an option to get AirShow, which is a screen recorder. So tap on that and then tap the install button and wait for it to install onto your home screen. Once it's finished downloading, if you try and launch it, it will say that it's an untrusted enterprise developer. In order to fix this, go to Settings, then General, and scroll down to a new option that's called Device Management. Here you will see an enterprise app. Tap on the name, whatever it is, it can change from China Pacific Insurance. tap the blue trust button and then the red trust from the pop-up, and that should enable you to launch the application. Now, in order to use this application, you tap on record, set up your orientation, then your resolution, next step, and you have to swipe up from the bottom of the screen to get your control center, tap AirPlay mirroring, and you should see your own device, and tap there. And once you've completed all these steps, you should see the blue bar at the top and a little AirPlay symbol, and that means that you are now directly recording your screen. There's a lot more information about this on my other videos on AirShow, so click on screen now to find out more. Safari now allows you to have unlimited tabs in your browser, and if you want to get rid of them all very quickly, you can long press on the tab button in the bottom right hand corner to close all your tabs all at once. Safari now supports inline video playing, which means that you don't have to play a video in full screen. This is what it looks like full screen, but then I can minimize the video and it still plays while I can read the rest of the article. You have a lot more dictionary options to choose from now. You can go to settings, then choose general, scroll down to the dictionary option, and here you can select from all sorts of different languages. When you're downloading applications from the App Store, you have certain options available to you now. For example, I'm downloading Oz Broken Kingdom, and you can see it on my home screen here. If I 3D touch on it, it gives me the option to pause the download, cancel it, or share it with another person. So in this case, I'm going to cancel it because it's a 1.4 gigabyte download and I don't want that on my phone. There's a new option now on settings when you 3D touch it, and that is to jump directly to cellular data. If you're using Apple Maps, if you zoom into a city, it will give you a very brief weather report in the bottom right hand corner. Using Apple Maps now, you can set a preferred method of transport by going to settings, scrolling down to maps, and then you had three options at the top: preferred transport type, driving, walking, or transit. And if your preferred method of transport is driving, you might want to avoid paying tolls, and Apple Maps can do this for you by tapping on driving and navigation and toggling on the avoid tolls. If you have a terrible short-term memory and can't remember where you've parked your car, then your iPhone may be able to help you out. If you go to Maps, one of the options now is to show parked location. What needs to happen here is if your phone is connected to your car through Bluetooth, once it disconnects, then it should be able to remember where you parked your car. So if you're in a multi-story car park and you can't remember which level you're on, then this might be able to help you. Although if it's a multi-story car park, then you could be in the right place but the wrong level, so I'm talking gibberish. Anyway, this might be able to help you a little bit with where you've parked. As well as having a new dark theme for the clock, the stopwatch also has a new analog version of itself. If you just swipe left to see it and watch your timer start ticking. And now for one final funky feature. Remember I told you earlier on that if you triple tap the home button, you can launch a magnifier. Well, if you don't want to use the magnifier by default, you can change that. Go to settings, general, then accessibility, and turn off the magnifier. Then you need to scroll down to the bottom to go to your accessibility shortcut, and because the magnifier is no longer the default, you can choose something else instead. Now what I'm going to show you at this point is how to adjust your brightness with a triple click, but it requires a few steps before this. So if we go back to accessibility, then on to the zoom option, enable zoom, then scroll down to the zoom filter and set it to low light, then back a step, and then region you want full screen. So that's going to dim the entire screen. So if I just turn it off and then turn it back on, that automatically dims the screen by about 25%. So if you go down again to accessibility shortcut and then turn zoom on as your triple click action, what should now happen is when I triple click the home button, that turns off the zoom low light option, but then if I triple click again, that automatically turns it back on. So it's a quick way to shift your brightness if you want to in an emergency. There are two ways to take a screenshot on your Samsung Galaxy S7. The first is to hold the power button and the home button at the same time. The second requires a hand gesture and to be turned on through settings, advanced features, and smart capture. Toggle this option on, and while you're here, also toggle on the palm swipe to capture option. And this is how you take the screenshot. You run the palm of your hand across the screen. And when you do so, you'll also see editing options at the bottom of the screen. If you want to take a screenshot of something that's more than one screen, say for example a news article, you can take a screenshot, and when you do, an option in the bottom left will appear that says Capture More. If you press that, it will continue to take screenshots as it works its way down the article, and as you do so you will see a preview on the right hand side which you can tap to see the image that's stitched together. If you think the Galaxy S7 is a little too big to use in one hand, you can reduce the screen size by going to one-handed operation. Once it's toggled on, if you tap the home button 3 times quickly, it actually reduces the entire screen size so you can fit your thumb around everything. You can left justify it, right justify it, and quickly return it to full screen. In addition to this, some apps have a one-handed input, such as the phone operations, which are shortened so that you can again reach all a number pad very easily with just your thumb. If you want to look at your screen without actually having to touch it when it's locked, you can do so by going to Accessibility in the settings, Dexterity and Interaction, and then turning on the Easy Screen mode. When your phone is locked, if you just run your hand over the top of it, the sensor will pick up and show you the screen. One feature Samsung have been very keen to show us is the always on display that gives you a calendar, time, notifications when the phone is locked, and it uses up about 1% of battery per hour. To turn this option on, if you go to the settings and then go down to display, there will be an option for always on, and you can change your settings a little bit, schedule it for when it's on and the content to show, although it is a little limited. Once the screen locks, the always on display should show. The assistive menu is this little button here that floats on your screen, and you can drag it around, snap it to where you want to, and it will also appear in apps. If you press on it, it gives you a couple of options such as going back, the notification panel, recent apps, and other accessibility options. In order to get this option to appear, if you go to Settings and then scroll down to Accessibility, Dexterity and Interaction, and it's the assistive menu which you can either turn on or off. For saving a battery on your Galaxy S7, you have 2 options, both accessed from Battery in Settings. The first is the traditional power saving mode, and if you turn this on, it will restrict your device in terms of syncing up to the internet, vibration, feedback and performance. If you want to go more extreme, you can use the ultra power saving mode, but that's going to turn off things like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. You'll get a very simplified version of your smartphone, and it's going to turn off all your colours as well, so use that only in extreme circumstances. But obviously if you look here, you can save a lot of extra battery power by turning them on. When you first switched on your Samsung Galaxy S7, you probably set up a fingerprint scanner for at least one finger, but it's worth setting it up for multiple fingers if you wish, and to do this you go down to Lock Screen and Security and Fingerprints. After you've put in your secondary password, you can add more fingerprints, and it's probably worth doing your left thumb, right thumb and your index finger for at least one of your hands. That means you're always sure that you can unlock your device no matter what finger you're using. The Galaxy S7 includes a feature called Smart Lock, whereby you can unlock the device without using your fingerprint because it's connected to devices it trusts, such as my smartwatch. In order to manage these settings, you can get to it through the Lock Screen and Security, Secure Lock Settings and then Smart Lock. In this screen it will show you all the devices that are connected through the Trusted Devices Smart Lock option, in this case a smartwatch. You can also set it to have trusted places, so that if you're at home and you know you're going to be unlocking a device a lot and you don't need a fingerprint scanner, you can set that location as a trusted area. Although the Galaxy S7 isn't the largest device on the market, there is a split screen mode. If you press and hold the recent apps button, that will split the screen in two, and then you can select an app for the top half of the screen and an application for the bottom half of the screen. The active window is highlighted blue, and you can use the toggle in the middle here to increase or reduce the size of the screen, and press on the other application to then do the same thing. If you want to back out of any of this, just use a home button to return to the home screen. A second way to multitask on your device is to go to Settings, Advanced Options and then turn on Pop-up View Gesture. When you do this, certain applications will be turned into windows if you want to. For example, if I go to Facebook and drag down from the top left hand corner of the screen, that will turn it into a window that floats on my home screen. You can then resize the window or use the white button at the top to drag it around the screen and long press on it to get various options such as closing it down and even minimizing it into a floating button. Now you can do this for more applications if you want to. For example, if I find Twitter and do exactly the same thing, drag from the top of the screen, I can turn that into a floating window as well, open up Facebook, and now I have two windows on my device. The gallery includes some interesting features, the first of which is the ability to pinch and zoom to increase your thumbnails or decrease them. At the top left hand side of the screen you also have options to change from sorting your pictures in time or categories, where it will try to work out itself what type of picture have you taken, say for example scenery or panoramas. And finally, if you have geolocation turned on, it will try to create events. Say if you go on vacation, I went to Victoria recently in British Columbia and it sorted all the pictures from that trip into that event. There is a private mode on the device which lets you hide files and pictures if you need to. It's accessed through private mode in notifications. You can enable it on or off, and when you enable it for the first time you will have to set up some form of security. Once it's active, if you go to say the gallery, you have the option to hide a picture in private mode. So if I press on more here in the top right hand corner, there is the option here to move to private. Once it's in private mode, if I take the system out of private mode by going to the notifications again and taking it outside of private, you will see that the picture has now disappeared. If I re-enable private mode through again the notifications, and it will ask me for a security pattern code, the picture reappears. If you press and hold the home button, this will launch Google Now, which gives you contextual information based on what's currently on screen. In this example, it's about a famous soccer player, and it gives me options to look at his Wikipedia page, Instagram, view videos about him on YouTube. One of the more unusual features is sound detectors, where you can either have a baby crying or the doorbell ringing from your house and it will alert you. Now unfortunately I don't have a baby at hand, so I'm going to enable the sound detector for the bell. So you go to accessibility, then hearing, then sound detector, and then turn on the doorbell detector. When you first enable the feature you have to record the actual sound of a doorbell ringing, so you press on the record button and then actually press on the doorbell. Then stop the recording. At this point your device will want to hear the sound again, so you have to play the recording and press on the doorbell once again, and if it's the same sound it should confirm that the sound has been recorded for your device. Once the sound is recorded and you enable doorbell detector, simply press the doorbell again, and wherever you are on your device it should alert you that the doorbell is ringing. The S7 comes with a fully integrated games mode, and it's accessed by going to settings, advanced features and choosing games at the top. Make sure game launcher and game tools are switched on. We'll look at game launcher first. This puts all your games into one folder on your home screen, and you have additional options here such as downloading new games, turning on or off alerts, recommended games in top charts, but the most interesting thing here is the save power during game option, which gives you three options to save power by putting the frame rate lower and the resolution lower, and so on. The game tools are where it really gets interesting. If you enable it, you'll have a small launcher button here which you can drag along the screen and put it discreetly where you want, but when you tap on it you'll get various options, including turning off alerts for your phone, locking the capacitive keys at the bottom, minimizing the game into a floating button on your device. You can even take a snapshot as well through the option there, and one of the really useful features is a record feature which will actually record your screen as you're playing. So then you can upload the videos maybe to YouTube or another gaming social media platform. When you swipe down for notifications you will see a row of settings at the top. If you swipe down again you will get a complete range of settings. You can achieve the same effect by using two fingers when swiping down to go immediately to your settings. Now each setting has a double function. If you tap on Wi-Fi for example, it will simply turn off Wi-Fi, but if you long press on Wi-Fi it will launch the Wi-Fi settings. At the same time, you can rearrange these settings by pressing the edit button at the top here so that you can pick up a setting and move it somewhere else, so you can effectively create a priority of settings at the top. The Samsung setting screen is pretty comprehensive with a big long list of options, but you can customize it to put your favourite settings at the top, and to do this you want to tap the edit button in the top right of the screen and simply tick the checkboxes next to your favourite settings. You can do up to 9 of them and they will appear at the top of the screen. If you find you are receiving notifications from an application that you don't want, you can long press on the notification itself to launch straight into the settings where you can turn it off. Alternatively, if you want to manage all of your notifications at once, go to Settings, then scroll down to Notifications, and finally go to Advanced, where you can tap on each application and control its notifications. To check what your default applications are, you can go to Settings, scroll down to Applications, and then choose Default Applications. On the first screen you'll see the most important default applications for your browser, calling, messaging, but you can also look at each individual application and see if it's set as a default. For example, the Chrome browser is set as a default, and if you click on that application you can then clear the default to then reset it next time you go into a browser. Every time you install an application, it will ask for permissions on your device, and you can check what each app is using on your device by going down to Privacy and Settings, App Permissions, and then it will list all the functions of your device and tell you which apps are using it. For example, if I tap on Camera, it will show you all the applications that potentially can use it, and you can toggle them off individually here if you need to. To find out how much storage space you have left on your device, you can go to the storage settings, but what you might not know is if you tap on internal storage, it will give you a breakdown of what's being used where. And once the calculations are finished, you can tap on areas to see what parts of the system are using your storage. A very quick way to free up some storage is to tap on the cache data area and it will delete your cache, although performance on some apps might be a bit slower as it has to reload pictures. The Galaxy S7 allows you to control the intensity of your vibrations by going to Sound and Vibrations and Vibration Intensity. You can adjust vibration intensity for 3 different types of vibration: incoming calls, notifications, and vibration feedback. There is no official way to change the illumination of the lights at the bottom of your device, but you can change that through an application from the Google Play Store. It's called Galaxy Button Lights, and once you download it, you can use the checkboxes here to change the time of your lights. For example, I can put it to 5 seconds, and as long as I save the behaviour, the illumination of the lights at the bottom will change to that time. The S7 has 2 what you might call soft reset modes, where it doesn't delete any personal data, but it will reset your settings on the device. To do this, go to Settings, then choose Backup and Reset, and at the bottom of this page we have 2 options. The first is your standard reset, where it will take everything back to its factory default settings, including Do Not Disturb, ringtones, and so on. But as it says, it will not get rid of any personal data. The second reset mode is a lot softer, and it just focuses on network settings, which are Wi-Fi, cellular, and Bluetooth. So depending on what you need to do with your device in terms of resetting it, you can choose either option. If you don't want your lock screen to show any information about your notifications, you can go to Settings and scroll down to Security, followed by Notifications on lock screen, and when it shows the content on lock screen, you can hide the content. Now when your notifications are shown, it will say Contents hidden or not give any information of importance. You can manage the content of these notifications on an individual level if you go to Settings and scroll down to Notifications, choose the Advanced option, and when you select on an application, at the bottom there will be Hide Content on Lock Screen. This overrides this main setting. If you're a music buff and you want to change exactly how the Galaxy S7 sounds, you can go to Sounds and Vibrations, scroll to the very bottom, and then choose Sound Quality and Effects. This is essentially an equalizer to tailor it exactly how you want it. If you want to download large files as quickly as possible and data usage is not an issue for you, you can do this by going to More Connection Settings and turning on Download Booster. When you have a file of over 30 meg, you can use both your Wi-Fi and LTE network to use the connection and download as quickly as possible. Obviously, if you do have data usage restrictions, then I highly recommend keeping this setting off. If you want your screen to look warmer or cooler, you want to go to the display settings and then choose the screen mode. By changing to the different displays, your screen will become warmer or cooler to suit your preferences. Usually when you get a notification on your device, it's a one-time only thing, but you can set up reminder alerts by going to the settings, accessibility, and then choosing notification reminder. Here you can set what type of notification you want, how often you want it to remind you, and specifically set it to certain apps if you want to. From time to time you may see a notification saying that apps have been placed into a power saving mode. This is when they've not been used for 3 or 4 days and the Galaxy S7 is trying to save battery for you. If you want to manage these applications, you go to the settings, battery, and then the app power saving mode details. This will list all the applications that have been put in this power saving mode, but you might not want them to go into the power saving mode because it may stop them sending notifications to your system, so you can manage everything here if you need to. Also, while we're in the battery saving options, you will notice a percentage indicator here for the battery, which is also managed in the battery section under this setting here, percentage on status bar. If you're using an SD card to expand the storage space on your device, you may want to transfer some applications over to that SD card to save on internal storage. To do that, go to Settings, scroll down to the Applications, then Application Manager, and for certain applications, when you choose them and then go to Storage, you will have the option to change the storage from internal storage to an SD card if you have one plugged in. This doesn't work for all applications. If you want to put your phone into silent mode, you want to choose the Do Not Disturb option. From here you can enable it or schedule it so that it turns on and turns off at certain points in the day and time. There are a few customization options, and if you want to do this even quicker, you can go to the settings on your notification tray and use the Do Not Disturb option to quickly turn it on and quickly turn it off. When you are in Do Not Disturb mode, you can set up exceptions where applications will still alert you despite being in Do Not Disturb, and to allow this, go to the Do Not Disturb screen, allow exceptions, change it to custom, and then go down to priority app notifications, and here you can tick individual applications that can then alert you to notifications even when you have Do Not Disturb on. If you are a heavy user of your smartphone, you might want to reset it once in a while. Now that can be a bit annoying when you have to do it on the fly, so there is the option to automate the auto restart option by going to backup and reset and choosing auto restart, and here you can schedule it to do it, say in the middle of the night, say 3 AM 1 day a week, and that will just help reset everything in terms of performance and may get rid of any glitches that you're experiencing throughout the day. The camera can be launched with a quick double tap of the home button on your device, even if it's locked. In order to enable this option, you want to go to Settings on the camera and scroll down to Quick Launch and make sure it's enabled on. Naturally, the device has a rear facing and front facing camera, but do remember when you switch cameras, when you start to mess around with the settings such as the resolution, you'll be changing the resolution for what current camera you are using. For example, the rear facing camera has a 4K display, whereas the front facing camera doesn't. So just be aware, if you can't find something, you've probably switched camera angles and not realised. When you have the camera in front facing mode, you have the option to do a wide selfie. To enable this, go to Mode, choose Wide Selfie, and then when you take a picture, you just need to tilt the camera like this. That will capture more people in your selfie shot. For camera enthusiasts, you'll be pleased to know there is a Pro mode for the Galaxy S7. You access it by swiping in from the left hand side and touching on the Pro mode. That will open up options such as focus, white balance, ISO and aperture. Another thing to note is that while you're in Pro mode, you can actually save files in RAW JPEG format. This option is only available when you're in Pro mode, so just remember that if you do toggle it on. As well as the Pro mode, you'll also notice some other camera modes that include selective focus, panorama, hyperlapse, virtual shots and slow motion. But you can get even more options if you want to if you choose the download option when you're in the camera modes, and you can choose from any other ones available from the Samsung store. Just bear in mind that if you do want any of them, you'll have to sign up to a Samsung account to download them. One of the more interesting modes is selective focus, which will take a picture and try and get everything in focus so you can switch it post picture. So I've just taken a picture of an Android doll and a camera lens, one out of focus and one in focus, and then if I choose the option to go between the two focuses, you should see that the lens becomes the object in focus, and in near focus the Android doll becomes in focus. So that means you can save a picture post taking it in order to focus on different objects. You can enable voice controls on your device, so it takes a picture when you say keywords such as cheese, capture, shoot. In order to turn this mode on, go to the settings of the camera and you want to choose shooting methods and enable the toggle here. It will also take videos if you say a word such as record video. One additional thing you might want to note when using voice commands to take your pictures is you might want to set a timer, which you can do with the clock symbol on the left hand side. So if I set it to 2 seconds and then use the voice command cheese, you see the timer and it gives you a bit of time to prepare for the picture. You can change the operation of the volume buttons on your device to do different functions with the camera, such as taking a picture. To set this up, you want to go to the camera settings, scroll down to where it says volume key functions. You'll have 3 options: take picture, record video or zoom. So if I set the option to zoom and then use the volume keys again, you can slowly zoom in and zoom out. The camera includes various themes and filters that you can access from the effects button on the left hand side and simply tap on the filter to apply it. You can also adjust the filter settings by the slider bars on the left hand side, and if you want to manage your filters, you go to effects, manager, and then you can toggle them off or move them around with a long press. And finally, if you want to download some new filters, go to effects, choose the download manager, and that takes you to the Samsung site where you can download some new camera filters. Again, you will need an account to download these filters. A couple of things to note about the image quality and size. For pictures, you want to change the aspect ratio here on the camera menu. For video settings, you can go to settings, it's a top option. And a few things to note: you can record in 4K on the rear facing camera, but that will turn off video stabilization. That's not available on 4K recording, but it is available on everything else. If you want to be able to review your pictures immediately after taking them, you can go to the camera settings and turn on review pictures. What will happen now is when you take a picture, you will see a pop-up like taking a screenshot, and if you tap on the picture, you can then edit it immediately. This saves you from swiping from the right hand side to show pictures when you don't have review pictures on. The Galaxy S7 does come with minimal video editing tools, but if you want more, you can go to editor, and then in the bottom right hand corner you have this video editor option, and if you tap that, it will say that you don't have the Samsung video editor installed, but you can download it, and this is a free download. You don't need to set up a Samsung account, and then you can do more fancy things with your video editing. Of course, there are more video editors on the Google Play Store. If you're going to be taking a lot of photographs and you have an SD card, then it's an absolute no-brainer to save all your pictures to the SD card. To do this, go to settings, scroll down to the bottom and choose storage location to set it to device or SD card. The S7 has adopted an interesting camera feature from the iPhone, which is motion photo, and that records a few seconds of video before it actually takes the picture. So if I toggle the motion photo on and then just do something in front of a camera, it's actually recording now, and when I take the picture, if I go to the gallery, you will see a symbol next to the still picture, and if I play that, it will show the motion that was recording just before the picture was taken. A second feature of the camera is tracking autofocus. If you turn this on, this will disable video stabilization, but what it does is track an object on your camera, so it's always focused on an object. If I tap on this Android doll and then move it around the screen, as you can see, the yellow box is tracking this as it goes in and out of the lens, and it still focuses on the object, so it's useful for live action pictures, maybe when you're tracking a dog or a sports event. And finally, if you've made so many changes to your camera that you're finding it unusable, you can reset everything to factory settings by going to settings and using reset settings at the very bottom of the settings screen. If you do download multiple home launchers and then you need to switch between them, the setting is a little hidden away in the settings, but you need to go to settings and then applications, default applications, and then towards the bottom of the default application screen is home screen, and here you can switch between different launchers. Alternatively, you could download something from the Google Play Store which lets you switch home launchers very quickly. I've downloaded an app called Home Switch, which just requires one tap and then allows me to choose a different launcher, and I'll leave a link in the description for that application. Changing font size and font type is relatively easy. You go to Settings, choose Display, and the first option at the top here is Fonts, which will allow you to change the font via a slider at the top of the screen here, and you can also change the fonts if you want to, and also download more fonts if you want to really spruce up your Samsung Galaxy S7. If you want to make everything on your system look smaller, such as icons, fonts and controls, you can do so by going to Settings, then choosing Display and Display Scaling. If you change it to condensed, it will give you a preview of what it looks like, but to actually enable it, you will have to restart your system. And this is what it looks like from a screenshot when you have reduced everything from normal icons to condensed. If you want to set a rotating wallpaper on your lock screen, you can do so by going to Wallpapers and then changing the option to Lock Screen, and then selecting from the gallery. From here you'll be able to select more than one picture. So if I take 3 pictures as an example and press Done, that will set the lock screen to rotating wallpaper. So if I unlock the screen now, you can see that it's showing a picture. If I then dim the screen and then show the lock screen again, the picture transitions from one picture to another. So every time you look at the lock screen, it will rotate the wallpaper. People often criticise Samsung Galaxy devices for having too much bloatware, applications that you don't need but you can't get rid of. On the S7 you do have some limited options to actually disable some of these apps. Take for example the memo application. I use Google Keep, so I don't need memos from the S7. So if I long press on it, I get the option to disable the application, which means that it won't appear in my app drawer. I press disable, it's gone, and now I don't have to use it, and it saves a bit more space on my home screens and app drawer. Be aware that this option isn't available for all applications pre-installed on a device, and disabling some applications may have unintended consequences. If you want to get to the call settings on your device, there's 2 ways to do this. The first is to go through the phone application, More, and go to Settings. Alternatively, you can go to the Settings screen, scroll down to Applications and tap on Phone on the first page. When you are on the contact screen, there are 2 simple contact methods for any person on your list. You can swipe to the right to call them or swipe to the left to send them a message. If you want to answer calls using the physical buttons on your device, you can go to Settings and Accessibility, and you want the answering and ending calls option, and it gives you various options for answering calls by using the home button, using voice commands, and ending calls by using the power key. If you want to simply be able to call somebody by lifting your phone to your ear when their contact is on screen, or a message from them, or from the call log, you can go to Advanced Settings in the Settings screen and turn on Direct Call. In case of an emergency, you can leave important information on your device for people to read if necessary. To do this, you need to go to Contacts, then Groups, and then ICE Emergency Contacts, and at the very top on your profile you can add emergency medical information. There's various options on here, including conditions, allergies, medication, blood type, and any other information you want to put on there. If you are in danger and you need to send an emergency SOS, you can do so by going to Settings, scrolling down to Privacy and Safety, and looking at the Send SOS Messages options. If you enable this and then set up a picture or an audio recording, when you press the power button 3 times, that will send an SOS message to a person that's included in your emergency contacts. To add somebody to your emergency contacts, go to Contacts, Groups, ICE Emergency Contacts, and then press the plus button against somebody you would like to add to your emergency group. Now, if you decide to stay with Touchwiz, which is the default launcher for the Samsung Galaxy S7, here's a few tips to get the most out of the launcher. To move several applications at once on the home screen, you can long press and then drag it up to the top of the screen onto more apps. This will create a banner where you can then pick up more applications and drop them into this banner, so you're selecting multiple applications. Then you can move to a new home screen page and simply drop all the applications by tapping on them, so it saves you a bit of time by moving more applications than just one. For any folders that you have on your home screen, you can tap the colour palette in the top right hand corner to change the colour of the folder. Now you may notice that many of the Samsung icons have this curved edge effect on their icons, whereas other icons just look like they would do from the Google Play Store. You can change that to a uniform style if you go to Settings and then choose Display and Icon Backgrounds. You can turn on this Icons with Background feature, which adds the curve effect to every icon on the screen. Make sure you press Done once you set this, and if you go back to your home screen, you will notice that every icon now has this curved edge look, and you can see it even more in the Applications drawer. If you swipe right from your main home screen on Touchwiz, you will get Flipboard, which is a news application. If you don't want to use that, you can long press on a blank part of your home screen, swipe to the right where Flipboard is, and then turn off the briefing with this toggle here. That will mean that Flipboard's not working, but it's kind of redundant anyway because you can't swipe right to see any other screen, so it's up to you whether you want it on or not. It may save a little battery. And many widgets that you have on your home screens can be resized, and the way to do this is to long press to pick the widget up, drop it down in exactly the same place, and you will see a blue border form around the widget, which should mean that you can stretch or shrink the widget to your desired size. When you are in your launcher, if you press the home button, you will return to your home screen as indicated by the home screen icon here, but you can change that. If you pinch inwards, you see the home button at the top of each of your screens. You can press that to set it as the new home button, and then when you're not on that home screen, pressing the home button returns you to that page. As you may have noticed, my home screens are a bit cluttered at the moment because every time I install an application from the Play Store, it adds an icon to the home screen. In order to turn that off, you can go to the Play Store, choose Settings, and then turn off the Add Icon to Home Screen option, which means that when you install an application, it won't actually put an icon on your home screen, it will just put it directly into your app drawer. You can set 2 application shortcuts on your lock screen. The default are phone and camera, but to change these you can go to Settings and scroll down to Lock Screen and Security, Info and App Shortcuts, and App Shortcuts. Here you can change the left shortcut and right shortcut to any application you want on your device. Say for example, I want the BBC Radio iPlayer, and then when I go back to my lock screen, it will change to the BBC iPlayer application. You can put a personal message on your lock screen if you want to, which will appear here under the date and time. To do that, you want to go to Settings, then Lock Screen and Security, Info and Apps, and Owner Information, and you can type in any message you want to fit on the lock screen. If you want to change the look and feel of Touchwiz on your device, you can do so by long pressing on a blank part of the screen and going to Theme. Here, Samsung have many different themes for their Touchwiz launcher, and it will change the colour scheme, icons, backgrounds, and all sorts of other little changes. In order to do this, you will need to create a Samsung account and download the theme to apply it. The default icon grid size on Touchwiz is 4x4 with 4 more icons in the dock. You can change this to some extent by long pressing to bring up the home launcher options, then going to screen grid and upping it to 5x5 if you want, just to give you a bit more space to fit more stuff on your screens. If you'd rather have all your applications on the home screen instead of having to go to the app drawer, you can do so by going to the settings and choosing advanced features and scrolling down to the bottom where there is something called Galaxy Labs, which is experimental functionality on your device. One of these is show all apps on the home screen, which you can turn on, and that will essentially throw everything onto your home screen so you don't have to use an application drawer if you're the type of uncluttered person who wants absolutely everything on your screens. Bit of a nightmare to manage, but might be a preference of yours. If you want to be able to install applications that you do not download from the Google Play Store, you can do so by going to Lock Screen and Security and toggling on the Unknown Sources option. Obviously you do this at your own risk. If you want to unlock the developer mode for your device, go to settings, then choose about device and go onto software info. On the build number, simply start tapping it, and when you do, a message will come up to say you are a few steps away from being a developer. Keep tapping it and eventually it will say developer mode has been enabled. And then developer options will appear at the bottom of the settings screen. Again, you change these settings at your own risk. With the Galaxy S7 currently running Android Marshmallow 6, to unlock the Easter egg you need to go to About Device, then choose Software Info and tap on the Android version number a couple of times until you get the M. You can long press that to change it to a marshmallow, and then if you keep tapping on this and long pressing, you will eventually unlock the Android Marshmallow Easter egg game, which is essentially a remake of Flappy Birds where you have to poke your Android robot through the marshmallow gates, and it's quite hard, but good luck with that one. Like most Android devices, the Galaxy S7 supports USB OTG or on-the-go cables, which enables you to plug USB peripherals into your device like I'm demonstrating here. So if you plug the cable into the Samsung Galaxy S7 and then a USB device, if it works, you should start to be able to use it straight away. In this example, I'm going to use a mouse, which you can see the pointer on screen now. The mouse button works. I can click to execute a tap. I can use the right button to go back, and I can also use the middle button to go home. So plug in USB devices and see what works. As a second example of using a USB device, you can plug in an external hard drive to massively expand the storage capacity of your Samsung Galaxy S7. In this example, it's a 1TB Toshiba external hard drive, and if I use an app such as ES File Explorer, I can browse the hard drive as I would on a desktop computer.
And that is it. Pretty much everything you need to know about the biggest smartphones of the year in just over 1 hour. First off, let me congratulate you for making your way through this entire guide. And of course, while I may have covered most things, it's impossible to cover everything. So if you think I've missed something major, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your tech day. Bye for now.